On April 12, 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King was arrested for leading a nonviolent protest against racial segregation in Birmingham, Alabama. On the same day, 8 Birmingham clergy members wrote a criticism of Dr. King's march that was published in the Birmingham News.
The clergymen wanted Dr. King to stop engaging in nonviolent acts of civil disobedience and patiently wait as long as it might take for change to come. They called his protest unwise and untimely.
Dr. King's response to the newspaper article was his own letter from Birmingham jail. While less famous than his I Have a Dream speech, it is one of Dr. King's most inspiring and powerful writings about the struggle of oppressed people for their civil rights. Following are Dr. King's words taken from the excerpt in Letter from Birmingham Jail.
We have waited for more than 340 years for our constitutional and God-given rights. The nations of Asia and Africa are moving with jet-like speed toward the goal of political independence, and we still creep at horse and buggy pace toward the gaining of a cup of coffee at a lunch counter.
I guess it is easy for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say wait. But when you have seen vicious mobs lynch your mothers and fathers at will, and drown your sisters and brothers at whim, when you have seen hate-filled policemen curse, kick, brutalize, and even kill your black brothers and sisters with impunity, when you see the vast majority of your 20 million Negro brothers smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society,
when you suddenly find your tongue twisted and your speech stammering as you seek to explain to your 6-year-old daughter why she can't go to the public amusement park that has just been advertised on television, and see tears welling up in her eyes when she is told that Funtown is closed to colored children, and see the depressing clouds of inferiority begin to form in her little mental sky, and see her begin to distort her little personality by unconsciously developing a bitterness towards white people.
When you have to concoct an answer for a 5-year-old son asking in agonizing pathos, "Daddy, why do white people treat colored people so mean?" When you take a cross-country drive and find it necessary to sleep night after night in uncomfortable corners of your automobile because no motel will accept you.
When you're humiliated day in and day out by nagging signs that read white and colored. When your first name becomes nigger, your middle name becomes boy no matter how old you are, and your last name becomes John. And your wife and mother are never given the respected title of Mrs.
When you are hard by day and haunted by night by the fact that you are a Negro, living constantly at tiptoe stance, never quite knowing what to expect next, and plagued with inner fears and outer resentment, when you're forever fighting a degenerated sense of nobodiness.
Then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait. There comes a time when the cup of endurance runs over, and men are no longer willing to be plunged into an abyss of despair. I hope, sirs, you can understand our legitimate and unavoidable impatience.
You express a great deal of anxiety over our willingness to break laws. This is certainly a legitimate concern. Since we so diligently urge people to obey the Supreme Court's decision of 1954 outlawing segregation in the public schools, it is rather strange and paradoxical to find us consciously breaking laws.
One might well ask, how can you abdicate breaking some laws and obeying others? The answer is found in the fact that there are 2 types of laws. There are just and there are unjust laws. I would agree with St. Augustine that an unjust law is no law at all.
We can never forget that everything Hitler did in Germany was legal, and everything the Hungarian freedom fighters did in Hungary was illegal. It was illegal to aid and comfort a Jew in Hitler's Germany. But I am sure that if I had lived in Germany during that time, I would have aided and comforted my Jewish brothers, even though it was illegal.
If I lived in a communist country today, where certain principles dear to my Christian faith are suppressed,
I believe I would openly advocate disobeying these anti-religious laws. I must make two honest confessions to you, my Christian and Jewish brothers. First, I must confess that over the last few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate.
I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride towards freedom is not the white Citizens Counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner,
but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice.
Who consistently says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action. Who paternalistically feels he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the myth of time, and who consistently advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient season.
Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection.
I had hoped that the white moderate would understand that law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice. And when they fail to do this, they become dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress.
I had hoped that the white moderate would understand that the present tension itself is merely a necessary phase of transition from an obnoxious negative peace where the Negro passively accepted the unjust plight to a substance-filled positive peace where all men will respect the dignity and worth of human personality.
Actually, we who engage in nonviolent direct action are not the creators of the tension. We merely bring to the surface the hidden tension that is already alive. We bring it out in the open where it can be seen and dealt with.